Hi there, it's Vero or Vero from the Archer and Olive Ambassador team, coming to you with a video on how to track your finances in 2023. This video does have a related blog post up on the Archer and Olive blog about finances and savings in general, as well as some more inspiration, so be sure to check it out. I'll only be covering the practical part of this spread, but if you're interested in seeing the decorations that I do and how I come up with those, you can find that on my YouTube channel at Vero in my 2023 bullet journal setup. Anyway, this finance tracker is inspired by multiple different finance trackers, but it is heavily inspired by a couple of creators specifically, including Haley Remda Art, Crafty Engineered, and Life by Whitney. Life by Whitney being the original creator, and their posts are also linked in the description box down below. I'm going to start off by showing you an old finance tracker of mine that I recreated from the creators mentioned. This one here is exactly the same layout that I'm going to be using with a couple of differences. For this one, I'm going to start off by dividing my page into 4 different columns. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to use a Dutch door and I want to be able to fit each quarter of the year onto one page. For those of you using an A5 bullet journal, for example from Archer and Olive, I would suggest starting with 6 squares for each month. Starting from the center of your journal, count 6 squares across and then put a line, 6 squares, a line, 6 squares, and that will be 3 months. The rest of the space on the left is going to be reserved for putting in your categories for expenses and income. Which brings me to my next step, listing out your different categories. Now I'm doing this on my journal, although I would suggest you do it on a spare piece of paper because I will be erasing these to reposition them later on. To start off with, I'm going to analyze my life and see where I spend most of my money. I suggest bringing up your banking app on your phone or on your computer and looking at the different expenses you had in the last month to start off with. Look at those different expenses and divide them into specific categories. Next up, it's time to start writing things onto your journal. This part is always semi-intimidating for me, but you're going to use a little bit of simple maths to center all of the categories on your page. To do this, sometimes I just have to pick a random spot, start writing, and then erase things and rewrite things until I find the right spacing. Once you figured out the spacing, it's time to write the months of the year across the page, and then I'm going to write down my categories on the left side. I am going to leave a couple of spaces down the bottom just in case I think of any other categories between now and the time I start using it. And then underneath those squares, I'm going to write the word total. The reason I do this is because I want to see how much I spent in total for the month of January. I also want to see how much I earned in total for the month of January. And so that's what that line underneath is going to be. Once I've written everything down, it's time to draw my boxes. Now I'm going to start my box starting from the very first category, going down all the way to the last category. I'm going to draw an extra line for the totals box, and then I'm going to do the same thing for my income. Next, I'm going to do the vertical lines for the different months. And then I'm going to repeat the same process on the next page. I'm going to grab my X-Acto knife to cut out the Dutch door. For the Dutch door, I'm just going to cut down from the top and down from the bottom. Then I'm going to leave 1/2 centimeter border around the entire table, and I'm going to cut that out as well. Once I've cut out my Dutch door, I'm just going to round out the edges as well, just, to make things a little bit more harmonious. And then I'm going to repeat exactly the same steps on the back. The added feature of this particular spread is that I'm also going to include totals boxes per category, which is why on the very right side of the page, I'm going to have another box, and it's going to have totals for all of the categories as well. And then I'm going to add my months of the year on the top off camera. And this is what the final spread looks like. You could leave this spread like this and include a title on the top, or if you're interested in more decorations, this is how my spread turned out once I'd added all of my decorative bits. To find a list of the products that I used today, head on over to the related blog post at Archer and Olive, and if you want to buy any of the Archer and Olive products, don't forget to use code VERO10 for 10% off. I hope you've enjoyed watching me set up this spread. If you found it useful, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the Archer and Olive YouTube, and if you want to see more content from me, head on over to my YouTube channel.